All right. Well, good morning again, and welcome to our traditional Why Invest in Chile panel. We have three distinguished panelists today with us here. The Minister of Finance, Mr. Nicolás Grau, Mr. Masami Ichiki, President of Mitsubishi Chile, a Japanese company with over 4 billion investments in Chile in some farming, mining, and the automotive sectors. And Mr. Gilberto Sayao, co-founder and chairman of Vinci Compass, an asset manager in Latin America with key presence in Chile and Brazil. So, well, Minister, you don't need any further introduction, but Masami, Gilberto, why don't you introduce yourselves in a minute or so?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Masami Ichiki, President and CEO of Mitsubishi Chile. Well, it's a great pleasure to be here. And I was just told that I am the first Japanese or Asian participating in this ChileDay and speaking on the stage. So I'm very proud and I feel very honored. And actually, my connection with Chile goes back to 1996, and when I put together a joint venture with Chilean group, Sigurdo Corpus. And at that time, I was in Chile through 2002, and so I know that Chile in the year 2000, around that time, and I know. And last year, March, I returned to Chile after almost 20 years. So I know also the Chile of today. And also in my career, I lived and worked in the UK for about 3 years and 5 years in the US and 2 years in China. So probably I can share some wider, about Chile. I can speak about Chile, but with wider perspectives. And by the way, during my first assignment in Chile, my daughter was born. So I'm proud to say that I'm also the father of a Chilean. So then, just with one slide, let me introduce who we are, Mitsubishi Corporation, and what we do in Chile. Well, on your left, you see what we do in Mitsubishi Corporation. We are one of the leading Japanese trading companies, and established in 1954. And we go through, and we are not just about the cars, but we do a wide range of businesses covering energy, metals, and machineries, chemicals, food, and etc. And we have present and doing business over 90 countries in the world, and our revenue is 126 billion US dollars, which is more or less equivalent to 40% of Chilean GDP. And on your right, this side, I talk about the Mitsubishi in Chile. So we established our office in 1960. So this year we are celebrating 65th year the presence of our office in Chile. And our main businesses are mining, salmon, and automotive, and we do some business development as well. And as Jaime mentioned, our investment amount is 4 billion in Chile as of last fiscal year 24. And you see some our investment examples. And by the way, 4 billion investment in Chile, it means that Chile is the fifth largest invested country in all Mitsubishi corporations. So among 90 countries. So that tells you how important Chile is for us. Thank you.
Please, good morning, everyone. For me, it's a huge pleasure to be here and a huge responsibility because I was nominated by my partner, Jaime de la Barra, to speak on behalf of a very qualified audience here, why to invest in Chile. So it's in terms of myself, I started my career very early at the bank, 1992, and developed my whole career through the financial markets. And only in one institution until we sold the bank in 2006 to UBS. And the important is we started an embryo inside of the bank that afterwards became what is Vinci Partners and especially what is Vinci Compass right now. So basically, we are a combination of two, let's say, very interesting and very long stories that and very complementary stories, by the way. I think that this was the beauty of the deal that we structured almost a year and a half ago. Let's say before we stayed almost 2 years negotiating the deal, so I think that we had plenty of time to know each other very well. We shared the same philosophy of we are through partnerships, so basically people business that at the end of the day on paper could work, but if people are not in agreement, I think that will not work on the long term. And I can guarantee that has been a very good and a privilege to be dealing with my Chilean partners. What is Vinci Compass right now? We are full service alternative asset manager in the region, and basically built by two main points. One, on our side in Vinci, we were 100% concentrated in Brazil, developing let's say, pretty diversified asset management platform, especially on the alternative side. Means private equity, real assets, means real estate, infrastructure and credit, and forestry, credit and equities. And we built this through, as I told you, since let's say, we started in 2001 inside of the bank only with proprietary capital. When we sold the bank then, we became like Vinci Partners, that we found at the end of 2009 when we finished our contract with UBS, and afterwards we started to with the same philosophy. So we developed some products, we see the products with proprietary capital, and we bring other people to invest with us. And so we built this platform, and so this is an important point. That's something that we do believe that there's a huge opportunity in the region to develop this kind of structure, of investment structure that we've been developing in Brazil for quite a while. And on the other side, I'm not speaking, probably you know very well, but Compass Group that developed a huge capability of helping and making an important curation of the best asset management worldwide, and giving this opportunity to the Chilean investors initially, and then expand to the whole region this capability of outsourcing this kind of investment. So after, I said, 2 years of negotiating, we decided that we had a perfect combination, and we decided to combine our companies. And this is very important because the combination means a full combination. So we operate on an executive committee that we meet every week, and basically a combination of people, as I said before, not only what we've been doing in Brazil with the combined group of Chilean. So this is the structure that we built, and was very sound to listen to the Minister of Finance putting the challenge moving ahead, that I think is very aligned with what we believe and what we expect for the future.
Great. Well, we made at a time of high global uncertainty, geopolitical tensions, tariff war, inflation, slow growth, affecting investors everywhere. Chile has faced its own challenges, two constitutional processes, slow growth, rising concerns over security. Well, you know the full story. But I think there is room for hope. Government shifted its agenda, started to pursue reforms on permitting, on promoting growth, investment, fiscal responsibility has also been promoted. And we have key industries with a window of opportunity: mining, infrastructure, energy transition. So we have remained and still very attractive for foreign investment and for global companies. We have deep capital markets, talent, many things that we're going to be discussing. But what I think is more important these days is that there is a rare consensus among political parties and our presidential candidates from the extreme right to the Communist Party, that growth is the top priority that should be addressed, and we need to grow again. But having said all this, Masami, you've been 65 years in Chile investing. Why has Chile remained such an attractive destination for Mitsubishi?
Well, apart from those naturally gifted, the gifted resources like natural resources like copper and lithium, and the perfect condition, geographical condition for thermal mining, I would say that we have multiple reasons. I will start with the one that is more obvious, probably, and a little bit more clear one. Firstly, political and economic stability. So when I was in Chile, back in 2000, Chile was one of those emerging markets or emerging countries. But it's a pleasant surprise to see that Chile is the OECD member after my return last year. And being OECD members obviously means trust, international trust. But just these days, not OECD countries do not respect the rules, but I see that today, being a member of the OECD as Chile has been consistently delivering and respecting the rules. So it's very stable. And Chile is still the most stable, obviously, and predictable country in Latin America. And just recent, I keep hearing that some Chileans talking about Chile with a little bit pessimistic tonalities or tones, but I do remind you that Chile is still the most stable country in the region. And so this stability and the credibility obviously give us investors the real confidence. And secondly, Chile is one of the most open economies. You reach out over 90% of global GDP with FTAs that Chile has established. So it's one of the best, most open economy in the world. And thirdly, Chile has very friendly and consistent policy for foreign investors. Obviously, not to mention 100% of ownership by foreign capital is allowed, and free capital flows is also guaranteed. And the foreign companies are granted to have the equal rights and obligations as well as Chilean companies. And as Minister mentioned, it's very important to know that Invest Chile has been supporting us very well, being a one-stop support. And overall, the framework for foreign investors, Chile has very consistent and transparent framework.
And Gilberto, in your case, why did you choose Chile to anchor your Latin American expansion through the partnership with the Compass that you just shared with us?
No, basically I think that Chile developed a very robust and very sophisticated financial community and industry. I think especially with the pension funds, insurance companies and family offices. We got very impressed with the sophistication of the investors in Chile, especially I think because of the decades that the Chilean investors have been investing globally through many different asset classes. So this is very unique, especially for the Brazilian standard. So I think that this is a very important pillar, and I'll not be repetitive about all the pillars that Chile, I think, represent, even in the region. I think it's a good example. Sometimes being a Brazilian, I got a little bit jealous with the indicators in Chile that the Chileans are complaining, but I think that it is another point. But I think that this is one very important pillar. Another one is, as I mentioned before, I do believe, and I really believe that we are a true partnership. So we decided to do a partnership with Compass, and I told this to Jaime and Manuel since the beginning. If it was an idea of buying something, we didn't have interest, but making the combination, I think that is the right way to move ahead. And after 2 years, I think that we we found a very good maturity to move ahead. And by the way, I really believe that we found the right partners in the region. I think these guys built a strong reputation with this financial community of sourcing and curation the best products worldwide for them to invest. And third, we listened from the minister that the pension reform is generating an increasing savings that probably will, I think, will be a good opportunity to fund many good projects in infrastructure in many different sectors that could basically end up generating a good growth and good to increase even or to enhance the social indicators in Chile. And finally, I think that as I said, I believe that the experience that we had developing the real alternative asset management in Brazil through many different sectors, I do believe that combined with now having the good partners, the local partners to develop this kind of platform, I do believe that will be the right way to move to Chile. So because of this, we made this transformational deal that for our history, and now we are really thinking that Chile will be one of the main drivers of value generation, value creation for our business.
Great. So, Minister, capital is mobile, global. That's a fact. We cannot change it. So, who is Chile really competing for attracting that capital? Where do we outperform? Where do still investors raise concerns?
Yeah. So, first, it's difficult to me to add something to what you already said because it's a very optimistic view, and it's more. I mean, the fact that you say that is more it's something. I mean, it's not coming from the government, so it's different than when this is being said by the private sector. But I would like to add few things. First, I would say that Chile have different comparative advantages from a point of view of an investor. I mean, they are the ones that you already mentioned: the rule of law, strong institution, FTA networks. This is for sure important. But I think it's also important the fact that Chile can really make the green transition as the main driver for growth. Okay? This transition is difficult all around the world. I mean, it's something that I think we haven't thought how deep it's going to be, because you need to open new sectors, you need to change technologies. I mean, it's so difficult, this transition. In the world, during the last 200 years, we have had some transitions, but this is the first one that is being designed, or is coming from a political agreement from different countries. So it's something that is happening by design. It's not happening just because there was an invention or something like this. So this green transition is so difficult, and I do think that Chile can make the green transition the main driver of growth. This is an advantage. I mean, the second one, I think we have a long tradition of having some innovations in the way that we think that public and private sector can work together. Okay? So I would say, for example, that what Chile made in terms of concession, like 20 or 30 years ago, was an important innovation. The process that we have now in terms of permitting, which is, as I said during my presentation, the biggest problem that we have. This is still going to be a problem, but we are addressing that and we're working together to solve it. And finally, the point that I want to make is the following. I mean, if you are an investor, okay, in any country, okay, and you're thinking an investment, the kind of investment that you have, so you need to have return for, let's say, 30 years. Okay, is so difficult that nothing is going to happen in 30 years in a country, in any country, not just in Chile. I mean, you see the world and the social conflict that we have. We have a lot of sources of uncertainty. Okay? So we and any country, you cannot offer that nothing is going to happen in 30 years. The only thing that you can offer, and I think Chile has an advantage on that regard, is that you can offer that you don't know what is going to happen, but you do know that you're going to address that problem using institutions, channel all the conflict using your democratic institutions. So the way that you can address all this conflict in the future based on the strength of your institution, I think this is something that Chile can offer. That's why I think that even though it's not the political outcome that many people expect, even in my case, what happened with the constitutional process, I would think that the process has a value, okay, in terms of how we show to the world the way that we can process all this social conflict. Okay? Because again, from an investor perspective, from a long-term investor, which are the most important one for having an impact on employment, wages, and so on, I think this is the main important message. Okay? And I think it's a huge asset that we have in Chile.
And Masami, you've lived through various cultures, countries. What do you think makes Chile distinctive as an investment environment?
Well, on top of those, the points that I have already raised, as the attractiveness of Chile as a destination for investment, I would say that what is making Chile very distinctive is the people, Chilean people. You know, from my point of view as Japanese, I see that Chileans, I can describe that Chileans are hardworking, serious, and resilient, and trustworthy. And probably it sounds a bit unusual or strange to say this, but to some extent, I perceive that the Chileans are similar to Japanese. You know, we are hard workers and we are serious, even though those two nations shares the different roots and we have different histories. But when it comes to doing business, we feel like, you know, when we do business with Chileans, we feel like we're doing business with Japanese in Japan. And everything is based on trust. In Japan as well, trust comes first. Even though we reach good conditions, economical conditions to agree upon, but still, if there's no trust, no business. And that applies perfectly to Chilean case. And so Chile has that, we share some we share value, sense of values with Chilean. And that makes us feel very comfortable doing business in Chile. And that is one of the reasons why we've been doing business for over 60 years. And the other example is that we haven't experienced major surprises doing business with Chileans. You know, probably it's different from other neighbor countries. I don't name the names, but when contract is done, then the contract is respected. And we feel that confidence doing business with Chile. So overall, for us, the Chileans are you guys, like, we have like 300 Chileans today in this room. You guys are ones who is making Chile very competitive, distinctive, and resilient.
Well, thank you, Masami. And Gilberto, as Mitsubishi, other global companies have found great talent in Chile. This is a topic that maybe is not addressed in this type of forums. We always talk about institutions, capital markets, and other things. But how has been your experience with Chilean professionals or talent that you found in these years working now with Compass?
No, perfect. I think that let's say Masami just facilitate a lot what I need to explain, because he already explained what not of the same deafness and long term that you've been dealing. But as I told you, since we started to discuss a potential deal with the Chileans, we recognize exactly this. And I think that it's, despite of I already mentioned that I think that I'm completely convinced that we found the right partners. And I will add just one point to what you said, because they are super respectful, trustworthy, but they question a lot, and this is very good for a partnership, the way that we are building our partnership. So this is the way I do believe that it's the right way to really combine. And as we decided to really combine the companies, so we are operating the company as just one company, we feel a lot this interaction between the Chileans and ourselves as Brazilians. But only to reinforce, I do believe that I think it's a reflex of a little bit the society, the Chilean society. I think that especially if you look in the region, I already mentioned that I feel a little bit jealous so far to look for some Chilean indicators. I do think that Chile has the right pillars in place in terms of education, in terms of incentives, and I do think that it reflects a little bit what Mr. Masami just said here. And I completely agree. And I do think that has been a fantastic experience for us since we started to deal with the Chileans. We really recognize, and I do think that even the incentive of investing for decades in many asset classes worldwide, I think developed this kind of very sophisticated financial industry that as a consequences, I think the professionals involved are very, very sophisticated too. So when we decided to combine the companies, we are really bringing the Chileans to top positions within our organizations. Like our head of client relations is a Chilean, our head of operations is a Chilean. So guys that definitely have a competitive advantage to be dealing. And I think that it's reflecting a little bit also, it reflects a little bit the history and the trajectory of Compass, as they started in Chile and then they grew through the whole region, basically exporting human capital for the other countries. So I think it was a very good point that we realized since we decided to combine. By the way, before we decided, because during the negotiation, this was one of the important pillars that we believed that we could be successful together.
Excellent. So let's move a little bit to talk about our challenges. President Frey in ChileDay Madrid, in his presentation here, with that Chile had grown for 30 years at a very fast pace. Then we had this period of slow growth, but he tried to pursue us, and I agree that we have all elements to resume growth. But Minister, what are some key lessons of this last period that we don't want to repeat? What are some lessons learned that you can share with us of things that we would not like to repeat, so we can build from then on and resume growth?
This is a more difficult question, but I mean, first, let me say something that is going to be a little polemical, but still, I don't know that we grew at a high level for 30 years. I mean, we grew 20-something. Okay, and it's important the difference, because one of the problems that we had in Chile is that for many years we thought that we were growing more than what was really the case. Okay, and this is being reflected in the government expenditure too. I mean, for many years we were spending more money because we thought that our growth capacity was bigger, and it was going to be recovered at some point, but it was not. It was not the case. Okay? So basically, the growth problem, we have that problem at least since 2012. Okay? And in terms of productivity, we had that problem from 2005, 2010, something like that. So it's a more difficult problem. Okay? In terms of what we can do different, I think, and you mentioned that is, and this is related to the previous question. For many years, both, I would say, the right-wing people, left people, we thought for many years that growth was there for granted. Okay? And it is not the case. I mean, to growth and to sustain your growth for many years, and the Asian experience is very useful from that perspective. You need a lot of work. You need to innovate. You need to do things different. That was I was mentioned, for example, what we did in terms of concession, like 20-something years ago, because it was an innovation. So we need to be more creative about the type of innovation that we need. We need to be more creative about what is the type of relationship that we need between the private and the public sector. So we discussed this in Madrid, but I do think that we need a relationship between the public and the private sector that is more a partnered relationship, okay? And I mean, like progressive or left people, when some people think that relationship, they think that the public sector is going to be captured. Okay, so they are afraid about this partner relationship, and the right-wing people think that the government or state is going to have too much, is going to have a too important role. So they don't want this relationship. But I do think that we need to work together in order to growth more. So just let me finish with the example of green hydrogen. I mean, the example of green hydrogen, in particular in the south of Chile, requires a lot of work together. I mean, we need to work together to define the kind of public infrastructure that we need. The roads, the ports. I mean, it requires a lot of a working together perspective. Okay, we need to anticipate the kind of human capital that we're going to need there, which is so difficult because this is in extreme south of Chile. Okay? We need to anticipate how the suppliers, okay, are going to be there, such that most of the value that is being created stay there, which is important both for the impact on wages, but it's also important from the point of view of the political stability of that process. Something, I mean, with the mining sector, we work a lot, okay? We have a very good relationship, but I always talk to them that when you see, for example, the poverty rate that you have in Antofagasta, in Atacama, and in Tarapacá is too high, given the GDP the per capita GDP that we have there. Okay? And this is not a responsibility just of the private sector. It's something that we have to do better together between the private sector and the public sector. So I would say that at the beginning of my position, at least in the Ministry of Economy first and then in the Ministry of Finance, I think that at the beginning I didn't anticipate, okay, how important is this relationship and how important is to innovate in this type of relationship. And I also think that the private sector has to think more on the kind of state that you need to growth. Sometimes I feel that you just say we don't want too much regulation, we don't want too much taxes, okay? Which is fine. I mean, it's a valid point of view, okay? But I think that is much more complex what we need. I mean, we need a partnership relationship, and we need to be more creative about what kind of, so the macro situation, it is important, inflation is very important, institution is important, but this is just a necessary condition, is not a sufficient condition for the type of growth that we need.
And Masami, you've praised about Chile's strengths, and when we were preparing, you also talked about some challenges that we need to face, like permits, rising crime, and higher labor costs as well. How do you see this affecting Mitsubishi's ability to grow further from here?
Well, I think as you we spent a long time discussing all those issues and challenges. We do recognize their challenges, but those are challenges that we, all the Chileans, are fully aware of, and we recognize that there have been some steady progresses, as Minister Grau has devoted his time and energy addressing to those challenges. So, but for us, those are challenges, but those are not reasons. We see those challenges not as reasons to step back or to stop investing, but rather we see those challenges kind of opportunities or potential opportunities for the future to improve and take actions and to grow together. Because like any other countries, we all have those issues, and we fully trust that the Chilean is addressing to those issues, right? But if I may, I have just one point that I'd like to raise, taking advantage of this occasion, which is about the work permit for foreigners. I'm not sure if this applies only for the Japanese expats or other nations, but it is taking too long. Probably this is kind of only for Japanese. So I can't. Well, obviously, comparing with other, the permits for the big project, this can be a minor point. But on average, we run this survey every 6 months or every once a year about Japanese companies. But it's taking about 6 months since the application for the approval on average. So it means in some cases it takes like 9 months, almost 1 year. And I even know a case where we're about to send a expat back to Japan because the old visa status is about to expire. So we can renew every 3 months or 4 months, but that period has already about to expire. So we had that case as well. So, and when we do business or investment, normally we as Mitsubishi Corporation, we prefer to be, our preference is to be always kind of a strategic investment, or not just a financial investment. And wherever we make investment, we send people because we like to manage. We like to manage and add value from inside of that business or invested company. So on one hand, foreign investment is welcome, but on the other hand, no, people. So that situation makes us feel less welcome as expats. So that's the only point I'd like to raise.
You have some homework now to help Masami, Minister.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that challenge.
So Gilberto, from a financial sector, capital markets point of view, what type of conditions would you like to see to ensure Chile can keep competing as a financial hub, at least in Latin America?
I think that Minister, during his presentation, mentioned a lot of important initiatives to, I believe, keep Chile as a very competitive hub for attracting investments. I do think that it's obvious that the tax system should be, let's say, friendly for this kind of. Otherwise, the capital is mobile, and you tend to flow to another destination. So I think that it's very important to have let's say a tax system that incentivizes the capital to stay the country. I do think that regulation-wise, I believe that Chile should continue to promote the global investments. I think that is something very that the Chileans should be very proud of. But at some point, I think that create some incentive also to, let's say, to stay at the country, and especially to fund this kind of a long-term project. I'm not mentioning financial investments on a pure, let's say, sense, but the really long-term investments that at the end of the day, I think that will convert in growth and potential of new jobs and everything. So I do believe that fostering this kind of local capital markets, I believe that it's something that could be very important to Chilean moving forward in terms of generating wealth for the population and tackling all the issues with inequalities and everything. So I do think that the tax system should be something important, otherwise the capital will flow. And I think to create some, on the other side, create some regulation incentives to, let's say, to try to use this kind of increasing savings to fund some long-term projects in Chile.
So, Minister, you've heard Mitsubishi, Vinci, Compass with long-term commitments to invest in Chile. You've also mentioned in your presentation that we're starting a new investment cycle. What do you think are some areas of reforms that for the next 10 years, there is political consensus that we need to grow again, so let's say that's solved somehow. What do you think are some...
The question is how?
What do you think, why don't you share a little bit on more longer term policies that will help us be more competitive, more productive? Some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Of course, well beyond your term, but
so first, two policies that we are still discussing during this administration, and I think are relevant for this. One is the nursery policy, as I said before. I think this is going to be very relevant from the labor market perspective regarding growth, because this is relevant by its own. Second, we are discussing in the parliament. Actually, we're going to start in the committee of finance of the Senate the project of AFIDE, this agency for investment in Chile, which is basically is going to take what Corfo is doing right now, but we're going to do it in a different way, and I do think that this is going to be very important to give more capital to the firms that want to innovate, okay? Because when you see, one of the problems that you can see in the data in Chile is that the expenditure on R&D is too low, okay? So we need to try to understand different ways to increase that. Okay? So these two laws that are being discussed right now in the parliament are so important, and I do think that we have the opportunity to make progress on that. In both cases, I think there is a lot of agreement. Another thing that is important in Chile is that I think that we need to work harder in trying to develop, let's say, the middle class firms in Chile. I mean, we have small ones, we have big ones, but we lack something in the middle, okay? And in my view, the critical or the main driver of that new types of firms in Chile should be the relationship, the link with the big firms. So I do think that we need to work together with the big firms to identify what are those, let's say, small firms, but with the potentiality to become a medium firms, and working together to first identify them and then helping them. I also think that we can work together, being able to identify a new type of foreign investment in Chile. For example, with the mining sector, with the Consejo Minero in particular, we are working together to invite new foreign investors in Chile, but thinking in the suppliers. So these big mining companies right now in Chile have a lot of suppliers that import or export their goods. Okay, so if you're going to have a wave of 80-something billions of investment in the next 10 years, we can invite them to Chile to invest in Chile, and by doing that, having more job creation of employment of a lot of quality and good wages. So I think that given that, imagine that we are able in the future to keep this macro situation, okay, a reasonable macro macro situation. Imagine that we are able to improve the permitting process, as I hope is going to be the case given the implementation of. So we need to work harder on the to be sure that firms that want to innovate, they're going to have the capital that they need to innovate. Okay, and we need to work harder in order to see how we can create these middle class firms that can play a role. For many years, I think, I don't have nothing against the small firms. Actually, as a Ministry of Economy, I work a lot with them. Okay? But in terms of having a big change, okay, when you have, for example, a middle firm, small middle firms of, let's say, 100 people, okay, and you work together with them and they move to 500 employers, is equivalent to, I don't know, 200 small firms. Okay, so we need to work harder on that on that part. There is a lot of evidence also that we have problems about new firms that are innovating and so on. And the last point that I want to make regarding this AFIDE law is that one of the components of that law is this idea of fondo de fondos. Okay? I don't know how to translate that.
Fund of funds.
Okay, easy. And that was a project that, a law that, if I remember well, Piñera's government sent the last few days of their administration. Okay? And this is going to be important because right now we have a lot of startups in Chile. The Corfo program of Startup Chile, I think, was created by 2010 or something like that, and during the first administration of President Piñera, I think. It has been very successful creating new startups, but the problem that we have now is that when they have to scale up, okay, they can't do that in Chile. And this is a problem because we are losing potential jobs, new jobs. Okay? It is a problem because from the point of view of equal opportunities, because maybe if you have networks and you have a startup, you can go to US, Mexico, UK, whatever. But if you don't have network, if you are from, I don't know, from Concepcion, from Valdivia, and you have a very good idea, you have the startup, but then you need to scale up, you're not going to be able to do that. So we need to improve our capital risk sector, and I think this project is going to be important.
Great. So before we run out of time, I would like to give Masami and Gilberto a couple of minutes for a final remarks, and I have a last question for the minister before we conclude. So Masami.
Yeah. Well, let me wrap up my points that I have already mentioned. Ladies and gentlemen, Chile is gifted with obviously critical minerals like copper and lithium, and that support the global energy transition. And with the Pacific Gateway that links Chile with the Americas, Europe, and Asia. But those are not just industries, but bridges between Chile and the world. But most of all, as I cannot stress enough the importance of Chilean people. That Chile is gifted with the people, hardworking, resistant, and trustworthy. So we see that this is the people is a true treasure of this country. Yes, we know all that there are challenges, permits, and recent rising crime, but Chileans are all fully aware of those issues. And so for us, those challenges we all identified are not challenges to stop investment or to step back, but reasons to improve and grow together. And the world needs what Chile has for energy transitions, and probably the Chile also. Yeah.
So continue or
Is it
shall we
finished?
exit?
So Chile, sorry, the world needs what Chile has, and the Chile also needs what the world can bring. So once again, after all this, when I'm asked why we based in Chile, my answer is quite simple. Because Chile matters. Chile matters not only for foreign investors, but for the future of the planet. And this is why, after these almost 30 years, I still believe in Chile and mis queridos chilenos. Muchas gracias.
Gilberto, any final remarks, ideas?
Oh, I think that my final message.
Now we have to leave, or now we can stay? We continue.
Okay.
Okay.
So I will start with some optimism. No, basically my final message is like it's definitely an optimistic message. I totally agree with what the minister said, that we cannot expect what will happen in the future. And by the way, I think the Chileans should be very jealous of the Brazilians, because we are, let's say, in terms of volatility, we know very well this kind of unexpected events that happen that change everything. But I do think that we've been passing through a very difficult moment worldwide with some special geopolitical issues that I do believe that it's turning the lights a little bit to Latin America. I do think that we have a region consistently stable in terms of political issues. We don't have like some very important other aspects that could disturb a little bit our region. I do think that the challenges, let's say, that the countries face are pretty, let's say, not the same, but pretty similar to each other. And I do think that the cooperation between Brazil and Chile, I do believe that could generate, especially as we've been having this kind of experience together, I'm truly optimistic that this cooperation moving ahead could be something interesting to, let's say, to try to develop the region. I think we have plenty of challenges, but on the other side, plenty of opportunities mentioned here. Let's say not only mining, but I think we can combine the agriculture potential that Brazil has with all the other products that Chile develop. If we think about AI development, all the demand of energy that will generate for the data centers, like were mentioned before here, I think that both countries could operate together in this. I think that we have a lot of nice trends moving ahead that could generate, I do believe, that a good moment. And at the end game, I think that, let's say, and we think a lot like this, we believe that we are a curator of good projects to allocate capital through credit or through long-term investments, and we will and we are planning to be an important player in this arena, and helping the country to achieve what are the goals that should be important for the country to development. And on the other side, I think that attracting good capital and attracting good people to be doing business in Chile.
Grateful Minister, last question. So Chile's development has relied on local business families, entrepreneurs, investors, global companies. What would you have here, Mitsubishi, Vinci, and a great audience? What would you like to ask them to contribute for Chile's development? What would you like to see from them? If you can request something.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not so sure they're going to deliver, but...
Yeah. I know. I mean, as I said before, and I haven't been successful with this message, so I'm going to continue all the month that I have until the end of this job, is that I do think that the private sector haven't thought deep enough about what kind of a state they need in order to grow. I mean, you just think about it. I mean, for too much time, we have been debating about the size of the state, okay? Which is an important debate. I mean, and we're going to continue that debate for sure in Chile and in other places. Okay? For a lot of time, we have been discussing about how to have a nice institutional framework in terms of regulation. Okay? And this is, again, an important debate. But we haven't discussed enough about what kind of partnership we need between the private and the public sector. And my experience is that when I talk to firms, and when they come to my office and they show me the project that they have, which is in general a very interesting part of my job, to be honest, and something very new, given my previous life as an academic. So I have learned a lot in those meetings. In general, I do think that in those meetings they are asking me for a type of a state that we don't have right now. Okay? We don't have in the state the capacity to address together with you complex situations. Okay? To innovate, to work together, trying to anticipate how to open new business opportunities, how to make all the coordination that you need in terms of the public goods that you need in order to make your investments. Okay? So I do think that the private sector has to push and pressure in order that the state is able to deliver this public good that you need. Obviously, that conversation is going to be also difficult, because then if you have more capacity in the state, they are also going to ask you in the future different things. Okay, but this is something I do believe that is something that you need. But even though you need, you're not asking for that, and I don't understand why. Okay? So.
Homework for everyone then.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I think it's clear that Chile has challenges, but I think we all agree that we have a great potential and that we have committed investors. With sound policies and working together as you are requesting, I think we will continue to be and have everything in our hands to be a great investment destination in Latin America and globally. So. Thank you for joining the panel. Great discussion. Thank you, everyone. We will continue with our agenda. I think we have a coffee break now, and we'll reconvene for the next panel. Well, thank you very much.